Hey, what's up everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with an AfterWord message for you from my last reading titled 777 Jackpot. Now, one of the main things that stuck out to me from that reading, which was generally about manifestation, it was for the 777 portal, which was July 7th, 2023. And that number numerically, angelically, and energetically just speaks about manifestation, being in alignment with your spirit and your soul. And what came up mostly was about cleansing. One of the key points that came up was cleansing your energy field of clutter to pretty much optimize manifestation and to magnetize your energy field, to not only bring your visions and your dreams to life, but also magnetize yourself to be an attracting force for, the highest vibration of results that you want to create for your life. So in the way of clearing clutter, I'm going to talk about things, places, and people. Usually it's people, places, and things, but just how, the notes came up today. I kind of started with things and then it flowed into places and then people, which is sort of in alignment because usually people are like the hardest aspect of your life to cleanse because of our attachments and things like that. So we'll get to that one last. So here we go. And these are just some best bets, some suggestions. Obviously you take it with a grain of salt. Consult your spiritual vibration on what works for you, but these are some of the things that I have done and that have come up for me, that I've had experience with, and also just some things that came up for me to share as a potential point of, perspective when it comes to cleansing your energy field. So start with the smallest, most intimate spaces. For example, your closets, your drawers, your wardrobe, your car. These are the spaces that can contain the most foreign energy, which is the things that are most vulnerable to exposure or overexposure from external aspects. Things that are vulnerable from external, what's the word I'm trying to say? Influences or interference. So I almost always start with my wardrobe. Historically, I've always done that. I've always been pretty good at keeping my closet clear and letting go of things that I'm not wearing. And these are some of the things that I think about when I'm cleansing my closet, and that means your actual closet, but generally your wardrobe. So your closet or your drawers, wherever you keep clothes, okay? So think about, what haven't I worn in a long time and why? Think about what's worn out, faded, tattered as you're going through your wardrobe. What's attached to a memory, a person, or a place, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. It doesn't really matter, but if it evokes some type of memory or attachment, you might want to think about why you're holding on to that thing. Is it really the object or the material that is serving a function in your closet, or is it the memory attached to it? Even more particularly, gifts. Sometimes we hold on to gifts because and they have no real true value or function in our lives, especially by way of clothes. We may not even like the sweater that you got last Christmas or whatever the case may be, but you keep it because somebody, that's important to you in some way, shape, or form gave it to you, and you don't want to, detach from that sentiment. So think about that. Think about what doesn't fit or flatter your frame now. A lot of times we hold on to items that we're looking forward to fitting into when we lose some weight, or we make some drastic change to our figure. But ideally, you want to stay as present as possible, especially when we're talking about energy. You don't want to be harboring energy even in a fashion sense that is not presently functional for the time. If anything, pack it away, store it somewhere if you must keep it. But most certainly, you know, release it if it's not going to serve you any true function. And then there's also what's out of season or out of style. So a lot of times we got things in our closet, it's just a hodgepodge, you know. It's right now my closet's kind of mixed. Like I have some jackets in there that I wouldn't necessarily wear in the springtime, but I have it pretty well organized so that those things are kind of off to the side where they're not in my direct space, because I just have one functional closet right now. But when I had more space to kind of, you know, tuck things away or store things away, I would pack sweaters away into a tote or, you know, a vacuum bag, whatever the case may be, until the next season. Or like I said, just you know, what's right? Organize your closet so that those things that are out of season are out of the way. And then on the style, in the style aspect, some things we hold on to that we don't even like anymore, that don't even express, you know, our highest creativity, or that are just completely outdated. You may even be waiting for a time for it to come back around. Now, I'm not one that is like supremely stuck on trends. You know, I wear what I like, what looks good on me, what I feel great in, and so on and so forth. But sometimes we hold on to trendy items, you know, that just served a purpose for, you know, a cultural expression at the time, that really don't express our identity in the present tense. So there's always an opportunity for you to release anything that's out of season or out of style with where you are now. And then the last one is what's not functional in your lifestyle. So that speaks to, you know, the factor of function. You know, does it match with how you live and who you are now, what you do day to day, even your work? You know, what you wear to work, does that have value with, does that cross-pollinate at all with what you wear to have fun? You know, maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. But if it has no place whatsoever, meaning you don't really need it to work in, to relax in, to have fun in, to be in leisure in, it's just kind of taking up space in your closet, those are the points of release that you get to make, you know, on a functional level. Because, you know, for instance, once upon a time, my wardrobe was a lot of leather, lace, and silk. You know, it was a pretty fly wardrobe for sure. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, and some of the extreme ways that I have made some cleanses in my life myself. But now, you know, in hindsight, where that function is now would be kind of minimal. You know, a lot of the things that I did wear back then when I was kind of a bit more social and out and about and going to affairs and functions and, you know, being more social on the scene, that called for me to have a bit more of an extensive wardrobe where my clothes needed to make a powerful statement. My life is not really like that as much anymore, you know, with good reason. And perhaps it's on its way back to that. But in the last year or two, it's been far more casual, much more relaxed, and even sporty, I would say. I don't go out much at all, you know, except for, you know, little social things here and there, and to enjoy life in the ways that I choose to, but it's not usually in a social setting. So I'm not really after the big statement pieces, you know, anymore. I'm not really pressed to be especially creative in what I wear, or have to mix it up quite a bit, because you might take a picture or be seen here with the same people and go to this function. You know how it is when you don't want to necessarily wear the same things over and over again. I don't really have the need for that type of versatility. So in the last year or two, my wardrobe has scaled down tremendously to more or less like the basics, you know, what I need to survive, still feel comfortable, still feel cute when I go out, but not necessarily to, you know, be a wow factor, if you will. So I always like I said, my closet has always been like that first point of reference for me in inventory. And I think it generally should be and would be easy for it to be for anyone that's looking to release some energy, some whether it's dead energy or just energy that's not really serving a purpose. It's always easy to start there because number one, that's your most intimate space, your closet. They say you want to change your life, change your closet, or something along those lines. Change your closet, change your life. And it's the best place to start because, like I said, those are the things that when you are out and about, they're the first point of exposure. Your outer garments, your armor, so to speak, even in the most energetic sense. Not only is it shielding you from energies on the outside, it's also protecting your energies from the inside out, you know? So there it's like, you know, your armor on the battlefield of the world, you know, it's what takes the biggest hit and the thing that we think about the least, quite honestly, in terms of impact and impression, because it is your first impression to the world. So you want to definitely start there and be clear about the statements that you're making personally and stylistically, what those statements are saying about who you truly are, and also the energy that you're harboring and harvesting on a very intimate level, okay? And, you know, I may go back and do one video for each of these things and maybe even find some things that I missed that I want to expand on, but I'm going to try to keep it concise because I think in this time, the energy, the idea of cleansing your energy on the most basic level is most important, especially during this time. We're in Cancer season, which is all about the home and nurturing yourself and how you're being nurtured. We just had a full moon in Capricorn, which is about what you're submitting your sovereignty to, what authorities you're allowing to take precedence in your life and what authority you're taking over your life, and even habits and things like that that you're relenting to or submitting to. And then with the 777 energy, again, it's about manifestation, bringing dreams to life, and also being in alignment with your inner truth, your inner light, soul, and spirit. So if you can't take inventory over you, and make the appropriate changes, you most certainly can't change the things around you. You know, you have to start with self. You get to start with self. So again, I'm just keeping it concise to give you a few places to start, things that might get you going or make you think if you hadn't otherwise. And then perhaps you might, you know, comment down below on some things, some actions that you've taken to, you know, cleanse the clutter in your life energetically or otherwise that might be in addition to what I have to say. So your car is like the Chariot card in the tarot deck, and it's literally your chariot. It's getting you from place to place. For some of us, is where we, you know, I know when I'm not driving right now, but when I was, it was one of the places where I did the most of my thinking and even meditating when I didn't even mean to. And it was just a space where I expelled a lot of mental energy and probably took in a lot of mental energy, even in the music that I listened to and things like that. So you want to really keep that space cleansed. You know, it's super exposed to external energies, i.e. the spirits that you interact with coming and going from family, friends, kids, co-workers, strangers, even in the drive-through, you know, people speaking into your car, passing you bags that they put their energy all over. Mental, emotional, excuse me, my goodness. Mental, emotional vibrations that are emitted in that space daily. You know, some that you have control over and consent with, and some others that you just don't. You know, you bring the energies from where you are back into your car and they stay with you there. And if you're not cleansing that space, then, you know, where does it go? It stays attached to you and to your vibration. So it's great to keep clear daily, you know, keep your trash clear every day, your clutter clear every day, or at least reset as frequently and deep cleanse as often as necessary, you know. So there's your daily cleanse of clutter. Then there's a reset that maybe you might do every week or so, or every weekend or whatever the case may be. And then there's also the deep cleansing that could happen. That's almost like you treating it like your home space, where you're not just washing the outside, but you're vacuuming the inside, maybe deodorizing the inside, maybe even saging the inside if you're into that sort of thing. I've even seen, one time I was in a lift and it was so pristine, man. She had a diffuser in her lift. It was just the most ethereal lift experience I had ever had. Like, I didn't even know I needed a diffuser in my car, but I bet you I'll have one. So, so what I was saying about these moments of reset or cleansing, you might want to do it after a challenging week, or maybe a challenging experience or a journey or a trip that you took in the car. Ultimately, like I said, you want to treat it like your second home. And for some of us, it damn near is, Palo Santo, sage, deodorize, cleanse, treat it like it's a secondary space, because as I've said, a lot of our best thinking and our best ideas come to us when we're driving. So you want to make sure that space is cleansed to receive and manifest those visions to full form. And then there's follow suit in work and creative spaces. And I won't go into too much detail about that, because you can ultimately treat it like any other space, your car or whatever the case may be, where you're looking to magnify creativity. So i.e. your home office, your work office, your desk, your cubicle, your workspace, wherever that may be. Your equipment, the equipment that you use, your locker, or whatever personal space you have at work or for work, your meeting room or classroom, wherever you create and wherever you have control to shift the energy, you want to be clear to do that. Don't take it for granted that, you just leave work behind when you come home, or leave the office behind. You should be just as conscious about keeping that space cleansed to your vibration, not to disturb the likeness of others if you shared a workspace, or, you work in a public environment. But whatever it is that you can contain and govern is an opportunity for you to do so that you can be in your clearest form to create. And also, when you're considering workspaces, consider your connections and your conversations, which ultimately leads to people, which we'll get into a little bit later. But consider the things that you're connecting to when you're at work or in a work environment, and the conversations that you're fostering or taking part in, what you're allowing yourself to be roped into or connected to. Think about, your point of view at the water cooler, so to speak. A lot of times we get roped into low vibrational connections on account of association and just, being a part of the culture at work. I know for sure that happens, when everybody's talking about the latest thing that the boss did, or what the corporate office mandated down to the store level, or, different things that happen day to day that are unfavorable. And instead of, positioning yourself to create the highest value from those situations, you kind of fall into line with speaking on the lowest vibrations of the situation, and ultimately creating or perpetuating that energy for yourself instead of raising it to, a more productive life force. So just be careful of I say here, be mindful of the places you willingly put yourself in. So that is connected to even beforehand, knowing that to work or be in that environment in the first place is your choice. So just as much as you have a choice to work there, from applying for the job or persisting in the role, you also have a choice in how you connect in that space and time. Nothing is, a lot of times we relent to the idea that, oh, well, I have to because I work here. I have to be around this because I work here. I have to tolerate these people in this way because I work here, or whatever this circumstances may be. But we all have the power of choice, no matter where we are, with whom and how and where and why and when, and all of that good stuff. Just because you clock in at that place, first of all, that's your choice too, but that doesn't mean that you have to adhere to all, you know, the vibrations that that place emits. You actually have an opportunity to raise it if you so choose to, you know, be accountable for your energy in that way. And that's the best way to actually change an environment, but to change yourself. So remember, it's your choice to be there, so you can always not be, but it's definitely your choice to change things or change yourself to shift the experience, okay? So now we're here at people, family, friends, foes, co-workers again, strangers. This is the most obvious yet least favorable point of change, because you can't really change people, but as I was saying, you can absolutely change your presence with them or your perspective of them. So family is tough because of familiarity and for comfort and security reasons. A lot of times we don't want to push ourselves outside of the comfort zones that we've been accustomed to or that we've even created for ourselves. So a lot of times it's hard for us to release people, family in particular, that aren't in alignment with our vibration for one reason or another. But the encouragement here is that there's grace for that. You know, you can do it gracefully and respectfully in a way that honors what you need as an individual and that shows, you know, a certain level of love and grace to those that you may disconnect from. It doesn't mean that they're going to be okay with it. As a matter of fact, for all of these, with exception to maybe the strangers, for every one of the items on this list, as far as people are concerned, there may be some pushback, there may be resistance, you know, maybe even refusal at times to adhere to your requests. But if you're looking to truly optimize your creativity in the most high vibrational way, sometimes it calls you to do the uncomfortable things, to make the uncomfortable releases. So releasing family can not only be uncomfortable for you, where you surrender certain levels of comfort and security. It can also be uncomfortable for those around you that are used to having a certain level of access to your energy. But again, your first point of service is to self, and then everything else is secondary. Friends, same thing. Friends offer social acceptance, which ultimately feeds the ego. We all want to be accepted and loved and valued. We all want to feel connected to that we're people. That's what we like to do. You know, I've been in points of solitude at many different times in my life, in extreme ways and in subtle ways. And, you know, I often wonder, if it wasn't for my son, how would I feel about that now? Because obviously, you know, that's my partner, and he's my first, if not second, if not first, I should say, point of service at this time. So he's always there, even when I'm in solitude or, you know, solitary on my journey. He's always going to be there with me, thank God, at least at this time, while he's dependent upon me. So I think about that because like I said, and I'll get to in a sec, I have detached from different relationships in my life, you know, with exception to my son. And, you know, it's not always the most satisfying place to be, at least initially, especially when you have grown accustomed to certain connections and relationships. But you always got to consider the greater good here, which is your groundedness ultimately, and what feeds the ego might not necessarily fuel your energy, you know. So just because it might feel good to have a lot of friends and for people to know you and feel like you're connected to what's going on, and, you know, you're not left out and all that good stuff, sometimes it's that very surge of energy that may be diffusing your organic energy to create and procreate and co-create in a more magnificent way. So friends sometimes have to be released in order for us to maximize our creativity. Foes or frenemies are obviously toxic to your creativity for the most obvious reasons that I probably don't need to to get into, yet and still sometimes we seem to keep those around even longer than we should. You know, when there's a clear dissension between you and other energies, other people, sometimes, again, for that sake of comfort or wanting to be a part or accepted, we still harbor and foster those relationships because we feel like we may miss out if we don't. When you know good and well homegirl don't like you, or bruh don't like you, you know, or there's a hint of jealousy that you feel under the surface, or a little bit of envy, you know, these are spirits that are not really curable by you and another person, you know, or competition even, which is created societally. You know, you have to really take stock of, when you're thinking about people, your energy levels with them and after you've left them, you know, so in their presence, how do you feel about yourself to express yourself, to communicate, to be, you know, authentically you, to share your ideas? Do you feel safe and sound to do that without defense? You know, is it a fun experience? Is it fulfilling? Do you feel filled or depleted when you're not in those environments or with those people? These are the things you have to really take notice of, which is why your emotional intelligence is key, because that's the first point of warning, those signs and signals from an internal compass that let you know whether you're in the right spaces and places and with the right faces or not. So when you're getting those cues that, you know, every time you're around this person, something strange happens, or there's always or even people that bring a lot of negative energy to you all the time, even when they don't necessarily mean to be an imposition or be distraction or anything like that. It's up to you to really decide like what the alignment truly is. If you're always finding yourself in a position to help and heal, but there really isn't much of an exchange right there when it's time for you to need somebody to really talk to and to feel safe to heal with, and to feel like you can get good advice from, and that you're heard and your feelings are taken seriously, your creativity is appreciated, you know, all these things. You know, if it's a one-sided street, that's a sure sign that you need to readjust or turn off that road altogether. Definitely create some stronger boundaries or healthier boundaries with all these people aspects, so that you're most protected energetically to create most, you know, exceptionally. Okay, so then we got coworkers and colleagues, which we talked about. And one thing I want to reiterate is that it's your choice as to how you stay connected, where you work, all that good stuff. It's always your choice. So establish professional boundaries when it comes to coworkers. Sometimes we spend most of our time with coworkers. We end up telling them all our business, or, you know, absorbing all of their business and energies, and then we take that home with us, and it has nothing to do with us. Ultimately, you know, we get wrapped up in the energies of people that really shouldn't impact us and affect us day to day as much as they do. So it's important for you to establish healthy boundaries on a professional level, so that you can have prosperous and creative relationships with the people that you work with without blurring any lines that might be a detriment to your energetic field. And then last is strangers. Now with strangers, you know, we come across strangers every day in our weekend lives, if we go out anyway. We do. Even the mailman, when he comes to your door, you know, whatever. But strangers, you want to treat strangers with grace, gauged with discernment, or I would even say gouged with discernment, because as much as you want to be graceful with others and be open to the possibility of pure connectivity, you also want to be discerning as to who and how you are connecting. So it's about being protective versus defensive. We don't want to go out into the world, you know, necessarily with an iron shield all the time and not letting anybody in, because you might miss an opportunity to connect on a very deep level, or, you know, bridge some type of relationship that is valuable to your life. So you don't want to deflect all people as if, have the attitude that you can't trust anybody, and, all people are, problematic and things like that. But again, you always want to be protective of yourself. So something my mom used to say to me whenever I went out is be alert. And what I'm adding to that is be alert, not alarmed. So definitely be alert, be aware of your surroundings, be aware that people are people, and most of us are out for self, self-satisfying creatures. But I don't believe, or I don't live my life necessarily in an alarmed state all the time. There are moments when I'm out and about where I'm more alarmed than others, or more alert than others, like in large crowds, like 4th of July, or in places where there's a higher risk of vulnerability. But for the most part, I trust myself, and because I can trust myself, I feel like I can trust myself with other people. I trust my discernment. I know when something I feel isn't right, or when I don't feel comfortable in an environment, and that's on an intimate level and on, a very public, I don't even know how you say it. Like it's in every regard. It's in my close relationships, and it's in my public persona, even in this virtual space. I know that I can trust myself more or less to know when it's time to draw a more stringent boundary than for me to have to always feel like I just gotta go out with ironclad armor all the time and letting nobody in. You don't speak to nobody, you don't look at nobody, you keep your head down, you don't go out at all, I've been in that space before where I hardly went out at all, but now I'm in a place where I'm much more balanced, to the point where I feel like it's meant for me to spread my wings and be connected to the world in a special way. And as long as I can trust my discernment and the guidance of my light, which is, ultimately guided by an all-powerful source, then I'm okay. I'm okay. All things are a go. So with that being said, these are some of the extreme ways that I have exercised these moments of cleansing, in my life. And it's been as far back as years ago, before I even had my son, to very recently, I would say in the last couple of weeks or so. So this is just a few points that are a range of examples. So I'm telling you this from experience. I'm not just saying, cleanse your energy because it sounds good. I'm telling you because when I've done these things, it's gained me results, mind, body, and spirit. In spirit and in truth, I've gained quality results from this. So back when I was in New York and I was transitioning from my apartment in Brooklyn, my last apartment in Brooklyn, to ultimately being almost a nomad in New York, if you can believe that, which if you've ever lived in New York, you kind of know how that's possible. But at the time, it was a very, big transition for me because I was very comfortable in my last apartment in Brooklyn. I loved it. I loved my roommates. I loved the location. I loved my wardrobe for many, many reasons. But that was actually my first extreme cleansing that I experienced, because I was at a point where I was going to be leaving that apartment. We had initially all decided to leave that apartment and kind of go our separate ways. But then my other two roommates had a change of heart, but I still felt the call that it was time for me to move on. Like, it was just one of those inexplicable moments in your life when it's just time to move forward in some other way. And other people may not understand it, but it happens often. And what I'd like to insert here is that during a lot of those moments is when you often will get the call, like these moments of big transition or transformation, is when you will often feel the call to release, to cleanse, to clear, whether it be people, places, or things, or clearing yourself from people, places, and things. Usually it's at that threshold of when God is about to make some major changes in your life. And that's exactly what happened. So when I was leaving my New York apartment, I literally got rid of everything. My wardrobe, which was one of my favorites at that time, except for the most recent time that I did a total cleanse, was, I couldn't take it all with me. The Spirit spoke to me that I needed to bear down to what eventually became known as the survival suitcase, which went from one big suitcase to ultimately one travel size suitcase of just the essentials of what I needed to move around easily and freely. Think about New York subways and streetways and all. I was going from apartments to couches and things like that at that time to safe spaces, thank God, and good friends, thank God even more. But it was a new journey that I was embarking upon that I didn't even know that I was going on. But the Spirit wanted me to stay in New York, which I did. And during that time of me not really having a stable, secure place to live, but obviously very sound spaces to dwell in, I needed to pack light. The call was for me to pack light. So I literally called all my girlfriends that were nearby and said that I was, giving away clothes. So they came over and picked whatever they wanted, whatever they found value in. The rest I took to, at the time, it was Beacon's Closet. I'm sure it's still open now, but Beacon's Closet, and got a couple dollars for that. Was able to pay off, my last little electric bill and things like that I needed to do before I left the space. And I left with one suitcase, sold my bed, sold everything. So that was one of my extreme moments of cleansing. And that was the beginning, quite honestly, of my spiritual awakening. Like, that was the precipice of my journey. I had a much greater awakening at another time that I'll talk about. But that was the beginning of it for me, of really understanding what it meant to fully surrender to the Spirit and go into the unknown and have no idea where you're being taken. But in that time is when I really started to find my own spiritual awareness. I started to detach from a lot of the things that didn't hold the same value for me anymore. I started to open myself up to learning new ideals about spirituality and God and the universe and how those energies were playing out in my life and what they were calling me to expand in. I went to momentum education and really started to get real about what I was creating in my life. And I learned a lot of tools at that time that taught me how to be a more magnetized manifester, ultimately, is what it taught me, and how to really leverage my internal power in ways that I didn't even realize I was missing out on. So if I hadn't left all those things behind and followed the Spirit, if I had stayed attached there, who knows where I would be now. But that was the call for me at that time, to pack light and move forward. I did. And also, a physical manifestation that came out of that time was me actually having my child, because I actually met my son's father through the momentum education, through an event that momentum education held. If I hadn't met him, I wouldn't have had my son. And my son is perhaps one of the greatest awakenings I've had to date. So, it's just showing you how sometimes it calls for you to do uncomfortable, obscure, what's the right word? Strange things strange things for some change, but not change that jingles, like for change in your life, and you just got to go with it. Another time is in New Jersey. And this is when I had my great spiritual awakening, when things about my life really started to come together and make sense in ways that, I didn't even realize was possible. Me being awakened to the truth of my existence and my relationships around me, friends and foes, hidden enemies, family that was positioned against me, friends that weren't necessarily in alignment with me. And not everybody, just in case anybody's watching, but sometimes when you got to get to the bottom of things, you have to clear the whole board and everything must go. And that's exactly what happened during that time in this New York apartment, this apartment I'm in now, actually. New Jersey, where I had, you know, some might have called it a breakdown. I'm sure from the outside in it looked like that, but it was like the Spirit spoke to me that everything had to go. Everything. I had to clear my entire energetic field, every corner of my apartment, literally from the front to the back, even the clothes off my back, you know, the things that my son had. There were so many things that held so much energy, and there was so much that I was discovering and that was being revealed to me about that energy, that even when I tried to kind of compromise with the Spirit and say, well, how about I just get rid of the stuff that I didn't buy? And it was like, oh no, that's what you want to do? You still want to hold on to some things? Okay, let's see how that works for you. And when I say it was like a light bulb, like, okay, no problem. Like, it was very clear that there was no compromise in that area. That when the Spirit says everything must go, everybody must go. I blocked everybody, didn't communicate with anybody for almost a year. Literally, now that was the time when it was the best wardrobe of my life. I was working at Zara up before that time, and I had acquired like the most fantastic wardrobe. I mean, everything that I ever could have wanted and needed. At that time, I had a rack outside my closet full of stuff, you know, and every shoe that I needed. And I've always been a very intentional shopper, so it wasn't excessive, but I had no voids in my wardrobe. My son had no voids in his wardrobe. And when I say I cleaned house, I still haven't completely recovered from the cleansing that I did then. I cleansed my house so well. But what I gained was, again, an awakening. It was almost like a rebirth and a resurrection, to be honest, because I felt like death was on my back at that time. It was like a do or die type of experience. You either hold on to these things and perish with these perishable items, or you release them for a new life and a new vibration. And that's what I got. You know, I reestablished my commitment to my spiritual path in a way that I was kind of tiptoeing around before, because I was more connected. The energy in those items was like forging a connection between me holding on to my old energetic self that wanted to be socially acceptable, that wanted my family to be proud of everything that I did and be in agreement and even understanding of everything that I did, that wanted my friends to find value and comfort with me, you know, that wanted to look good even when I didn't necessarily feel good, you know, that wanted to stay in relationships that didn't really reflect my highest value or didn't project my highest good. That's what holding on to all of that energy was for me. And what I had to cleanse it for myself and my son, because it forged this responsibility with my role in his legacy, or my role in the legacy that I was creating, that I was not only perpetuating poor vibrational habits for myself, but I was doing it for him too. So I had to clear the board for both of us, you know. And again, it was a tough position to be in personally, and then publicly, and, you know, amongst family and friends that had look at this fly, a monitoring spirit up in here. I ain't seen it. Where you come from, fly? Ain't nothing even in here. But yeah, I had to establish myself, you know, and ground myself in what I knew was going to be good for me and my son to create the most stable life that we could. And it meant taking a big hit, you know, energetically and materially and in every way, shape, and form. You know, it really did. But on the upside is that I gained my confidence and my dependence and independence, and my trust in myself, because me showing the spirit that was working through me that I trusted it allowed it to trust me with more responsibility, and my energy just expanded from that point. So again, I detached from family and friends, from things. Shoot, I would have left this apartment if God told me to, but it was just like, cleanse everything out, and now let's start back from square one. And then my energy field, just recently, I said even just recently, I got that call again, you know, because after I had detached from a lot of people, there were a lot of relationships that have stayed detached because I just don't feel that it's time to reconnect, you know, or that I'm in a space to be reconnected with, whether they, you know, have done anything or not. Like, that's just where the spirit has led me. So there's some energies that never got recouped, some relationships. But I did try to kind of reestablish my most intimate family relationships again. I came around for the holidays and grandma's birthday and Jay's birthday, they came and things like that. And, you know, just recently, I got to say that I hadn't really found myself to be comfortable in my energy again in those spaces and places and with those people. It doesn't say that it's necessarily on them, but when I've received the cues in my spirit and then my physical, there was physical evidence that there was a call for a change. Once again, I had to obey. So there has been a more recent time during this year, the top of this year and into now, where I had to detach again and separate, to get focused, to reestablish my commitment to, you know, there's some things that I have been diligently working to manifest and attract and bring to life. And when you're seeing that there's a stagnancy with that, it's really on you to decide where that void is and what's detaining you from ultimately, you know, expressing yourself fully and freely. So I got called again to move in a space of spiritual solitude, is what I call it, where it's just been me and Jay, even a few little friends that I picked up, you know, after my big total cleansing, I had to detach from, unfortunately, and be honest and clear with them about that. I've had to do it with family, and knowing that it's a hurtful thing to do on the outside, feeling, looking in. I've had to do it for the sake of my sanctity, you know, and my sanity to create in this present moment, because I know there's so much riding on the present right now. The world is changing. The energy field is evolving rapidly. And if you are not going to stay in alignment with your emotional intelligence to do what's best for you, to ride that wave and, you know, not just be swept away by it, but to actually ride those waves. You know, it's a ride right now. And if you can sacrifice yourself for the sake of others and get washed away, or you can surrender to those currents and just trust that it's all going to, you know, wash up on the shore in the end, and that the people that are supposed to be in your life will be there, and the places you're supposed to be in will still be available to you, and the things that you're supposed to have will make themselves available and more so be attracted to you even more easily than they were before, where you felt like you had to overwork yourself for everything. So just recently I cleared everything, all gifts that were given to myself or my son, I cleared out, gave back, or, you know, things that were old or tarnished or whatever that didn't really have much value, I should say, at this point, to give back. I released them to Goodwill and threw them away, and clothes that I did a cleansing of our closets again, clothes that don't fit or clothes that are old and worn out or from a different time that held an energetic field, a frequency that is not really valuable to now. Let those go, threw those out. You don't give those away. Anything that holds a low vibration, you don't want to pass that on. You want to throw that out completely, even if it's in good condition. So I did that just recently. I mean, big cleansing, you know, for the most part, and probably a drastic shift for the people that felt it on the outside. But what, again, it has afforded me is spiritual revitalization. So where I was starting to feel depleted and stretched thin again, and challenged and you know, contained and confined, I feel like I got a new breath of fresh air. And now things, you know, my spiritual sense is so keen right now. Like, I'm hearing at crazy psychic levels, you know, I'm feeling energetically things that are making sense to me in the physical form, and my visions are piecing together, and those visions are being added on to, as opposed to where they had kind of like plateaued a bit. So just another example that do what's uncomfortable so that you can be comfortable in the long run. And then last and finally not least, as far as my extremes are concerned, is social media. This was most recently as well, where it was just impressed upon me to release Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Now, Twitter, I've been barely on for a long time. The only thing I really post on there is stuff from Instagram that crosses over. It's more or less the same for Facebook. It's not like I really go on there and like make a post or anything, but stuff from Instagram used to dump into that as well. And I realized that those spaces were causing me a lot of energetic anxiety. You know, I was first of all feeling the obligation to want to post there if I hadn't posted there in a while. I wasn't feeling the connectivity to the content that I was posting, as opposed to YouTube. YouTube's the only thing that I kept, go figure. I feel a different value there. I feel a different camaraderie with the energies that I'm connected to there. And even though, you know, I started over, that was another cleansing. I started over on a new channel for my spiritual content, and my old channel is taking more of a lifestyle turn. But even that shift, I was celebrating 5 subscribers yesterday, just yesterday on my new channel. But you know, even to start over feels like a fresh start, you know, and I feel like there's more connection to the messages that I'm giving, not just to others, but within myself, of how I'm expressing myself and the different ways that I'm seeing fit to bring messages, and, you know, and feeling guided to be more free in this space. And at first it was like, man, you're gonna start over? And it's like, yep, I'm gonna start over. And that's one thing that I'm grateful for about me, is that I never have been afraid to start over. Even when it seems like it might be a new mountain or hill to climb, I've never been afraid to start over, start fresh, and see where the new journey takes me. That may be on account to my Sagittarius sun sign, always ready for a new adventure, but it's definitely something that I'm grateful for, and I impress it upon you to be open to a fresh start, because a lot of times, like, you gotta release yourself from old spaces to really expand your possibilities. I felt like I was being capped on my old channel on YouTube at a certain level of subscribers and views and stuff, and it just wasn't bringing the connection I was hoping for, or believe that I should be receiving for the dedication that I was offering, you know, even just to, and that was even a thing. I didn't feel as dedicated because of the response, you know, but, you know, and it's not like I had millions of subscribers there, but I felt capped there. Like, I felt like I was being contained. And I honestly feel like it was outside energetic interference, which we'll talk about in another video. But even still, I can't change the external interference, but what I can do is switch my energy. So I couldn't maintain, you know, I couldn't keep up with that influence on that side, but I switched the energy to something that's a little bit more casual and, you know, more fun. And now what's serious to me, that it being my spiritual expressions, I created a new space for, and we'll see how the spirit moves from there. Perhaps that energy might try to follow and put a damper on that growth as well, but at least I've done all that I can do in my part to expand myself as creatively as possible. You see what I'm saying? You feel me? So, you know, from that, so I let go of Twitter, I let go of Facebook, because like I said, I wasn't really feeling it anyway, and I don't really feel the energy is very high vibrational given the origins that it came from anyway. Instagram has shifted drastically from it being a fun place to post pictures to it being like a mini YouTube where they just favor videos and shorts and stuff now anyway, or what do they call it, reels. I wasn't really feeling it there either, you know, and every time I would get on, I would start to feel like this anxiety to keep up with the people that I had maybe lost track of. You know, I missed moments in people's lives that I care about. And, you know, then feeling like, oh, I got to scroll through all the things I missed and try to comment. And, you know, you want people to know that you care and that you're engaged. But in a lot of ways, I was very disengaged because I didn't even want to be in that space, you know. And that may have been external interference as well for me to shy away or, you know, reject those spaces so that I wouldn't thrive in them. I do believe that as well, but I had to follow the energy, you know. YouTube wasn't giving me that. And when it did, I switched gears into another page. But it was a big moment for me to say, man, I'm just going to, now I didn't just deactivate, I deleted my pages. You know, I no longer have a Twitter, an Instagram, or a Facebook. And if I come back on Instagram, at least it'll be in some other capacity, you know, it won't be the way that I came back. And I was at first thoughtful about my attachment to all the pictures and memories I was about to lose, and, you know, connections that'll be gone, because I'm far more connected on those platforms than I am on YouTube right now. You know, those are energies that I've been connected to since Facebook, since it started when I was in college, and it was only colleges on there. Instagram since I first moved to New York, and it was the popping thing to get on. And Twitter, you know, for as long as it's been around, and it was popular to be on there, even though I never really liked Twitter. But, you know, it was the attachment to the nostalgia and the connections and the memories, same as it is with clothes, same as it is with people, same as it is with places. You know, it was this space, this virtual space that I was forging an attachment to that wasn't healthy to me and wasn't productive ultimately, but I felt like I had an obligation to stay there. Well, now I don't, and I've released that, and now I feel like, you know, I've reestablished my presence in a much more authentic way because I'm in a space that I want to be in. I am excited about posting. Pardon me, I'm excited about the people that I follow and that I subscribe to and what I see of what they post. I'm very selective about that. And even in my lifestyle, on the lifestyle channel, which originally was the spiritual channel, I'm excited about the energy that I'm thriving in there as well, and about the possibilities for the future. So it's about really taking an honest inventory of what is fueling your force. You know, what are you doing or engaging in that just is obligatory, or because it's sensationalized by society or even your small group or friends or whatever? And what are you doing that's actually adding value to yourself? So from all these extremes, I gained healing, I gained new inspiration, fresh energy, peace, freedom, empowerment, clear direction, confidence, material prosperity, protection, promotion, and dare I say peace again and again and again, peace, which was the most important part. So there's more to be gained than lost when you're cleansing your energy. The idea is to take inventory of where you feel most restricted, limited, blocked, bound, burdened, stagnant, stuck, confused, defused, depressed, or overall imbalanced. For instance, if you're feeling like you're lacking confidence in expressing your creativity, wardrobe is the first point of your personal expression. So how you look equals how you feel, and vice versa. So that's a cue for you to maybe take stock over how you're looking and how you're feeling and how the two align. If you're having a lack of comfort expressing your ideas or your thoughts, consider your audience. Does this job or group of people value your contributions? Do you value your contributions? Why not? It's an opportunity for you to change your consciousness, shift your perspective, or transition yourself out of those environments or those connections altogether. If you're feeling at a loss for a capability to manifest or bring your visions to full life, to actual life, consider your workspace or where you're trying to create. Where or with whom are you working? Is it and or are they clear to create with? So who are you surging that creativity with? Where are you trying to be creative? Is that place, space, or people, are those people conducive for your highest vibration of creativity? The general idea, again, is to declutter your creative consciousness to the best of your ability for optimal manifestation and attraction of the most desirable outcomes and occurrences. Of course, we all clock in to divine timing. However, alignment of spirit, mind, and body is the minimum requirement as we work with the universe to co-create our most divine destiny, aka the life of our dreams. And that is it. If you're really looking to hit that jackpot in life, and it doesn't mean in the most primitive sense with the lottery or windfalls of money or anything like that, it really just means to feel like you are the creator of your destiny. You are co-creator at best of your destiny, that you have control over yourself and control over your creative consciousness in such a way that you are primed for manifestation and primed for the attraction of, the life that you dream of. The least we can do is align ourselves to be a magnetic force and field for those attractions, okay? So I hope that helps as an extension to 777 Jackpot. I'm wishing you all the luck and the blessings and blissings that the universe can bring, and all that I offer that you do is your part, clock in, as they say, all right? So until next time, peace.